Now we are ready to talk about the image itself. What makes the image look good and professional? Many people think that the good camera, expensive equipment makes your image look good, but actually understanding of lighting setup, this is what makes your image look professional. And whatever camera you have, if you don't use the lighting properly, it's not gonna affect your image. Even worse, as more expensive camera, as more mistakes it shows that you have. So the picture quality very much depends on lights, and there are two sources of light. This is a natural light, our window, our sun, and artificial light is what we turn on at home for recording different equipment. So the natural light, it is the most budget version for your recording, but it has limitation. First of all, the natural light, it's not controllable. You cannot control it. So the sun moves around the earth and it affects the angle in which it lights your room, and it means that the shadows on you are running from one side to another. So if you want to combine two clips that you think you want to cut off something you think is a mistake, then you cannot combine the clip easily, because at one point the light will be from this corner coming from this side, and another point it will come from this side. So even the shadows on your face, they will change, and it will be visible that you have stick two images together, and will look a little bit awkward to the eye. Another thing is that you can only record with natural light when there is a good day. So you cannot record with natural light when there is a lot of clouds and rain, and because it's not enough light. And secondly, you have to only wait for specific hours to record, and it limits your planning. It means that you have to arrange everything to be ready for this specific time, your family be out of the room for this specific time, you have to have no other work for this time, and it's a little bit challenging. And sometimes you prepare for video and you are just out of time, so the sun is gone already, you cannot record. So for us, as we want to record a lot of content, video content, and we need to do a video production in bulk because we want to influence people through our content, we need to ensure that we can control the situation, and having natural light is simply counterproductive from this point of view. And thus we're choosing the artificial light, which is easier to manipulate, but the lessons you will learn with artificial light can be also applied to natural light. And let's start with lighting setup. A lighting setup refers to configuration and arrangement of light sources around you, around the subject, and this arrangement affects the mood of your scene. Anything that you want to project to the camera, like you want to create a dynamic scene, you want to have a happy scene, you want to have moody scene, everything is done with the light. So to achieve this effect, you will need to manipulate the lights according to some laws that I will share with you, and adjust the lighting setup to your liking. And we will need to experiment with three things: with 3-point lighting, with key to fill ratio, is key to fill light ratio, and diffusion. Those elements these tools will help us to experiment with our image. 3-point lighting is a standard setup that is used for photography, cinematography, video production, anywhere we work with the image. The key to fill ratio, it is related to different setup types, to different lighting types, and the ratio of intensity between them, difference in intensity. And diffusion is how do you manipulate the light source. You can diffuse it, you can focus it, and it gives you different results. So before we discuss the 3-point lighting, out of these 3 tools that you will need to know, let's just look at types of lighting. So there is a key light. So I have just left just one light, which is key light, and this light is located in, like, if this camera is 12 o'clock, so it's located on 1 o'clock. So we have 12, we have 3 over here. It's located on 1 o'clock, and it's almost like in front of camera, but it's on the side little bit. That's how I have chosen for me. It doesn't have to be like this for you, especially if you're wearing glasses, you might have different angle, but we will come back to this later. You just need to understand that the key light is the most intensive light that is almost in front of you or on the side from you, but it's the key light. The name stands for itself. So the key light, since it's the brightest and it creates some shadows, because I have a diffusion, it doesn't create harsh shadows, so they're a little bit softer than they would be if you would just direct light bulb on you. So to manage these shadows that are coming because of this light coming from this side, and I have the nose, so it's gonna be creating here a shadow. And to soften this shadow even more, I use the fill light. So the fill light usually is located opposite of the key light, and it is complementary to it, but it doesn't have to overlight it, and it has to be less intensive, and this is how it looks. So let me turn on. So here is the fill light that I have turned on. My fill light is quite strong, is because it's my choice, but I can dim it a little bit. So I can just use a little bit of the fill light to soften the shadows, and it will create a little bit more dramatic look. And then the third light that I will use is the backlight. The backlight or rim light is the light that creates separation of me from the background, and it has to create some contour. You know, it's also sometimes called a contour light. I have opened the contour light. It's not very strong, but it has to separate me from the background a little bit, and because the light can reflect from my back on the background, even background maybe lighten a little bit. And this backlight, it can be different color, it can be blue or rose, or you could see different effects that people are using, and it will create some kind of atmosphere. There can be also light that will be lighting your background, but because we are working with the plain background fabric, I am not covering the lighting of the background in this video and in this series very much. It's more safe for YouTube. Also, the rim light or backlight can be located not on the back, but it can be located a little bit on the right. So you can see now it's a different picture when I have this light. So let me turn off this light. So this light will be feeling also this side of my face, and it will create some new feeling because of this effect. And also, if I will put it a little bit up, which I'm not going to do now, but if I would put it a little bit up, it would light my hair, and even as upper you put it, as more hair it will light and it will be shining. So that's how people do. The light is reflecting from the hair. So these are the types of the lights, and let me give you the definition of the lights to cover it so that you can come back to it if necessary. But before I go there, also another type of light, it can be some effects that you use on the devices that you are putting in front of you. For example, if I have a monitor like I have now, I can light the monitor with the colorful light, and you can see that it has the reflection, and it looks nice also. But I'm hiding my monitor from you so that you don't know that I'm reading from there. And since I have disclosed my secret, let me read the definition. So the key light is primary light source that illuminates the subject. The fill light used to soften shadows. Okay, so we soften the shadows and remove the shadows that are created by key light. Backlight is the light that is also called rim light, and is placed behind the subject, as I shown before, and it separates the subject from the background. So now we will talk more in details about the 3-point light setup, and I will tell you some schemes, different schemes that you can use so that you can experiment with your lighting setup. Let's start with standard 3-point lighting setup. Usually standard 3-point lighting setup is arranged the following way. The key light is based on 45 degrees. So I have it on 1 o'clock, which means like it's 15 degrees, something like this. I need to move it to 45. I can do it right now for you to see. So I have manipulated the light and moved it 45 degrees, and it's a little bit different. Also because the light is closer, it's good to lower it a little bit, and it's closer because I have the furniture there, but that's how the classic setup. So the other light, I do have 45 degrees, or maybe a little bit less, maybe 40 degrees, and it is usually has to be opposite again on of this light. So I have them in the same distances, and this light in the standard 3-point setup, it has to be dimmed. When I record for myself, usually I don't dim this light. I want to have it brighter. And the backlight for this standard setup, it is positioned on the back but slightly to the right. Let me try it. So I position it like this, and I'm using the ring light for now, but I can use any other light, like something that is on the background. It doesn't have to be ring light, but it does its job. This is the backlight. So if I remove this one, I only have this light in myself and becoming a ring light. Now, what is the effect of this setup? This setup lights the object properly, so it maintains the shadows, and at the same time it creates a depth of the image because we separate the subject from the background because of this backlight. Now let's talk about high key 3-point lighting setup. High key. So it's also 3-point lighting setup, but it's high key. That means that this light is high key and it's located almost in front of me. So usually I have my light far, but now I will move it, and I hope it doesn't close the camera. I hope, but this light now is more in front of me. I could make it closer. I'm just afraid that is gonna close the camera, but that's the light when it's located just in front of me. And the other light, which is the feeling light, it has to be also lighter so that it removes the shadows almost totally. That's why it's high key, but it's also high for the other light, which is feeling. So it is higher intensity than usual setup. It will look like that. And then the backlight. So the backlight is optional, but it can be used also in this setup. In this case, I will turn it off. And in this case, we will have just me. It will be a little bit flat image, but it's gonna be bright image. Of course, for the key light, usually the black background is not used because the effect of this lighting is to create even lighting and create upbeat atmosphere. It is very often used for commercials, for in the studio, for different shows that should be happy, like Good Morning America or something like that. It conveys the sense of positivity and energy, but as I said, for high key light, usually you don't have the black background. It has to be brighter to have all the scene balance. Now let's talk about low key 3-point lighting. The low key light is going to be the following. This key light we will place almost 90 degrees, so it's going to be almost on the right side. So let me show you how it's going to be, but before I go there, I will dim this light almost totally because it's optional to have this light. So this is a low key 3-point lighting. We don't have 3 points now, we have just 1 point. Let me turn on the fill light, dim it down just a little bit so that we don't have such a harsh difference here, but this light is going to be very dramatic and it has to have some colorful effects. Usually what they do, they turn on the rim light, which is going to be feeling very much this side. So they would turn this, it would be somewhat higher, and it doesn't have to be ring light, but it's going to be some kind of light that will be lighting me, and not necessarily for this light to be in the frame. It can be further like this and not in the frame at all. So, and it's from the opposite side from the key light, so it lights the other side that is in the shadow. That is how we have the low key 3-point setup, lighting setup. The effect of these lights, it creates a moody and dramatic atmosphere because it has a lot of shadows and contrast. It can be used for different shows like entertaining format, evening shows. It's used for some kind of this, but it's very also popular for YouTube YouTube nowadays, so you can see something like that, and you can see colorful background with rose and fuchsia colors and magenta and everything like that on the background. So if you don't mind, I will keep this set up, and in this atmosphere dramatic, I'm going to continue with the next part, which is, let's talk about diffusers. We have covered the 3-point lighting, and we have covered little bit the key and fill ratio. So when we were talking about which light is more intensive and which light is less intensive, the distance of the light and positioning of the lights, that's all about fill and key ratio that affects the image. So, and the only one thing left from the three elements that I wanted to discuss is diffusers. Basically, there are many things that can help you work with the light. For example, if you have only the key light, to use something for fill light, you can use just white paper. So you don't need to buy another light. You need to have a strong light from this side and have a white paper that will reflect the light on you. And you can also have white wall. If you have white wall or like something like white furniture, it can also work well for you, and you can see how it looks on your picture and manipulate the reflection of the light. Except of the white paper, there are actually reflectors and diffusers that you can use. So I spoke about diffusers many times, but I didn't say what diffuser is. So diffuser is the material that softens the light so that the shadows are not very harsh. So now let me remove the diffuser from my light, and you will see how it looks without the diffuser. So now you can see the light without diffusion. It's the same light that I had before, but it is without this thing. Diffuser here is this material that is, you see, you can see through it, so it filters a little bit the light so that it's not that harsh, and you don't necessarily need to have the umbrella, because I'm using the umbrella. It is the umbrella specifically for the light. But if you are not using the umbrella, you can use the paper for baking to close this light. You can use material. Sometimes people are using just the shopping bags, the white shopping bags, to close this harshness. Sometimes these lights are sold already with some filters, but when you are using diffuser, it's much better than using a filter, because I will put the filter that belongs to this plate, and you will see a small difference, but is not the same with having the large diffuser. So there are filters like this. You put it on the top of the light, but you see it's different color, so it gives you little bit different light warmth, the temperature of the color, and that's not what I'm looking for. So sometimes there are white diffusers, but anyways, it's always better to have the large diffuser like that, much better, the big surface. And it's same for light reflector. The bigger surface of the light that will be reflecting the light, the bigger, the better is the impact. And now at this point, let me go back to the light I had before. So according to my understanding, the initial lighting setup I had is the best for me. This is how I have defined what is the best light for me, and there is no best light for everyone. So when you will try your light, you will understand what's needed. Another thing to discuss is that there is warmth of light, and using this diffuser, I have introduced to you the difference between cooler light and the warm light. So light temperature, it affects the image very much, because the light bulbs that we are usually having or used to have, it is approximately 3200 kelvins, something like this. The Kelvin is how we measure the lighting warmth, and this light warmth is not good for the recording of talking videos, because it's yellowish. It is a little bit making the picture cheap, doesn't look good, and you have to ensure ensure that your lights are from 5600 Kelvin and up, and it means it's cooler light, it looks as a daylight, whereas the warm light is like indoors light, usual indoors light. And when we are talking about changing the warmth of the light, we're not saying that you're just putting filter. So just putting filter is not what's needed. Kelvins that are needed for our performance in front of camera is from 5600 Kelvins and up, and it should be not the usual light bulb. That is very important. And the Kelvins I'm using, usually it is around 5900, and that's the image I have. I think we can talk about this a little bit more when we will talk about the equipment. So now at this point you had to understand what the light does for you and how do you experiment with it. And you can experiment with different light. You don't have to buy light until like you understand what will be the setup. So you can start already experimenting with different light bulbs and different diffusers, reflectors, just for you to understand how the light works and how your face looks with different shadows and etc. Of course, when we will talk about the equipment, we will talk specifically about which lights you should purchase if you are planning to purchase, or how you can build light setup on your own DIY, and to ensure that the warmth of your light is proper, is not yellowish. That's what very much will impact how your picture looks. So that is all for now. We will see you in the next video for more details.